Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com. Hi, I'm Joe Mishka. Welcome to another episode of Rural Heritage TV. In past episodes of Rural Heritage TV, we've visited Vevay, Indiana to tour the Switzerland County Historical Society Museum there, as well as the hay press barn located at the Thiebaud Homestead just outside of town. Today we're going to learn more about the families that came from Switzerland to settle in the area, and the Thiebaud family in particular, as well as efforts by the County Historical Society to restore and preserve the homestead.
When they settled here, it was 1817, and they had enough money to have a cabin ready for them, and they came from Switzerland, from Vevay. When you said Vevay, that is how it is in Switzerland, but they had had a house built for them. There were three families came together, the Shanks, the Thiebauds, and the Von Burens, and so it was actually the Thiebauds' house, but the Shanks had lived here until each person got their land. Okay, so this is something we found when we had the historic structures report done, that some of the beams in the cellar weren't lining up to where the walls were. And so he had put in the hay press barn in 1850. So by the end of the 1850s, he has enough money to build a new house. And so this was the second generation. And so this house was built then. And so they had 10 children, and it's just 2 bedrooms.
Right.
But it's just beautifully built, and the space is very light. It just has a really nice design to it.
It sure does.
And you can see the original hay press barn through here.
Yep.
Now, we got the farm. It was owned, if you look across the river, you'll see Dow Chemical.
Okay.
And they had bought this farm as buffer property because they had, the people that had lived here were kind of unhappy with being across from a chemical plant. And so Dow Corning just bought it and just let it sit. And so when we were looking for a place, we had purchased the hay press barn first, and then we were looking for a place to rebuild it. And we were hoping, well, it'd be okay if it was on a main road and not too far from town. And if it had historic context, that'd be great. Well, we weren't having any luck. And my husband, who has since passed away, he said, "You're always trying to save something. Why don't you save the Bears farm?" Well, that was the family that he grew up with, and they lived on this property for over 50 years. And so when I checked the history on it and found out, well, gee, this is where the Thiebauds and the Shanks all settled originally, it couldn't have been more perfect.
Right.
So I approached Dow Corning about it, and at first they said, no, we don't want anybody on the property. We're because of the concerns that people have. And so we kept talking, and we worked out. They ended up donating it to us, and it's 164 acres.
Wow.
We can never sell it, and we cannot have anybody live on it. And if we did not fulfill our plans to do this living history site, it would go back to them with any improvements we had made. And so we thought we can agree to all those things.
The story of the Thiebaud farmstead and the hay press barn can be a little confusing. Shortly after arriving in Switzerland County, the Thiebauds built and operated a hay press barn, as well as pursuing a variety of other commercial ventures. The barn still exists today on the homestead, but without the hay press inside. The hay press barn that operates on the property today was found in another location, disassembled, hauled to the homestead, and rebuilt on the other side of the farmyard.
And we had to do quite a bit of reconstruction in the house here. We keep the doors on all the cupboards open when we're not here, just to help keep the humidity out. We had to rebuild the whole fireplace. When we got this, the floor was a concrete floor with indoor-outdoor bright green carpet. And the fireplace had been gone. It had acoustic tiles on the ceiling. They were falling in because the roof was bad. And so when we took that down, that's when we found the opening where the fireplace had been.
Oh my.
And so we had to rebuild it. And so Herschel's crew actually harvested the stone off the property.
Really?
And there's fireplaces in the front parlors. And so they just mimicked, they dimpled the stone just to look like that too. And then Jerry Wallen Forge, he's in Vevay, and he did all the fireplace cranes and tools.
Nice work. Yeah.
And then his wife did all the tin work. She has since passed away, but they do historic lighting. And so we were real fortunate to have them in the area. He built the table too, with the little butterfly joints on it.
Wow.
And he's still working.
Wow.
Yeah.
We now have 4 volumes of America's Rural Yesterday books with photos of farm life 100 years ago. Fieldwork has images of horses in the fields working the ground, planting and harvesting the crop. Barn and Farmyard shows farmers putting that crop in the barn, silo, or corn crib and caring for poultry, hogs, cattle, and more. In At Home and in Town, farm families prepare Sunday dinner, relax in the parlor, drive to town by buggy or wagon, and visit the general store. Finally, Early Tractors has over 250 photos of early American tractors like Alice Chalmers, Oliver, John Deere, Farmall, Minneapolis Moline, and many more. These photos are of new tractors back in the day and show how they were configured coming out of the factory. Buy any of these books for $24.95 plus shipping. When you buy 2 or more, the price per book goes down, all the way to $17.49 per book when you buy all 4. To order, just call 1-877-647-2452 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com. That's 877-647-2452.
These are the ones that, own the house and own the farm.
Okay.
These 2 people.
And what is your relationship to them?
All right, I'm going to show you. Okay, these are my many great-grandparents. And this is Emily Thiebaud. She was the second daughter. And this is John Shaw Malcolmson.
Okay.
So you're saying, how are you related? Martha took the other picture.
It's right here.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So here's Emily. Here's John Saul Malcolmson. There's Emily. There's John Saul Malcolmson. And this is his daughter, Della Malcolmson.
Okay.
Okay. And he married. Let me get my glasses on. I think it's Arthur Kay. Yeah, that's Arthur Kay. So Della is their daughter, and they married Arthur K. Smith.
Okay.
And they had my grandfather. This is my grandfather. Okay, but she died a couple of weeks later from an infection of birth.
After giving birth, okay.
Yeah, and so he was a baby.
Okay.
And here he is with, right here, this is John Shaw Malcolmson and Emily Thiebaud, and that is my grandfather right there as a baby.
Okay.
So,
And that's Cabo still.
right,
Okay.
and so the Malcolmson, Della, who is actually a daughter of Emily and married Arthur K. Smith,
Ah, okay.
and that's how I got, Grandpa was a Smith.
Okay.
And then it came to my father, who was Arthur William Smith. That's where the Arthur came from, And then I'm the only living son now, so.
So this couple
Right,
built this farmstead.
right,
They had 10 children,
right.
and all 4 of you are great-grandchildren of them?
Many great, John.
Many great. Does many great mean great-great-great or
Yeah.
different?
They come here. They come from here. See, Alice Augustine Tina Cable Shaw married Albert James Shaw, and it comes down.
Okay.
And that's where these guys come in. My mom died in 2012. And so, she left me some stuff about my ancestors because I didn't know anything. I grew up in Indianapolis, And my father had been in the Korean War, and we were estranged. My brother and I were estranged from him, and it's a big mess. But I'm just saying that
And it's your mother's side that goes, well, it's the Smith side that goes back. Okay.
Arthur W. Smith, William,
Okay.
my dad.
So your mom wasn't part of the Thiebaud family per se, except by marriage,
Right.
but she told you about it.
She gave me some stuff, and it talked about Della Malcolmson and stuff like that. And so for 8 years now, I got on Ancestry and, found all this information.
And that was how long ago? It took you 8 years to do it, but how
Started in 2012,
long? Oh, okay, all right.
and I done 8 years of that. And then finally I got to the end of the internet and,
Right, right,
I
right.
stopped.
When did you find out about this farmstead? Did you know about it right away?
2012.
Okay.
And I came down and actually got all these guys together. And there's other descendants we met at Moe's, and, it was one in a lifetime get together. Some of them are dead now. And so I got them all together at Moe's, and I was so excited. We were supposed to eat dinner, but I was so excited having I knew this was one. I kept talking, and eventually my aunt, who's my Elizabeth Smith, she married a few times. But anyway, I'm just telling you, this was my aunt. It was my father's sister. She says, "I'm hungry." Yeah.
Well, you were excited.
I was excited
Yeah, yeah.
about the information.
Right, right.
See,
Do you have children?
yes.
They're not here.
No, my
Your
children
grandkids?
are not, yes. And my children are not interested in this.
At least not right now.
And so I brought all my research.
Yeah, yeah.
It's in the truck. It's a
Continue.
fantastic story.
Yeah. Well, it occurs to me that Martha had to have been just overjoyed to meet you and to benefit from your research.
Right.
And you had to have been overjoyed to find out what was going on or planned to go on here.
Right.
It's really wonderful.
Martha was telling me that all my research and everything that I've done has brought people in from all over,
Right, Right.
here.
right.
And they're, because of what I've done. But I don't see myself as doing something fantastic like that. I just see myself doing.
But you didn't do it for any big epic reason.
Right.
You did it because you wanted to find out.
Right.
You
I wanted
learn
to find out who my relatives were.
and connect with them, perhaps.
Well, you can't connect with them because they're dead.
No, but
Right, Barry?
These guys.
Yes, Barry's fine, and Bud's my best friend. But Barry's a friend, really good friend too. He knows that, right, Barry?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how all this got to be where it's at. Here's Emily and John Shaw Malcolmson, and then here's Emily and John Shaw Malcolmson.
What a picture.
Okay, and here is Emily and John Shaw Malcolmson, and then Della, is my great grandmother. And then here they are with my grandfather, okay, but they're also here. This is a different picture.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
What a picture.
yeah, this is James Shaw, where these guys come down.
You've got a number on everybody,
Yeah.
almost. Well, you do. Well, this kid doesn't have a number.
Yeah, I don't.
That's who I think is my grandfather, James Earl.
Really?
Earl
Okay.
James
All right.
Shaw, yeah.
So now you can get a number on that
We
person.
think it is. It looks
Yeah, yeah.
like him, but there's no number. We
Sure.
don't know that.
So,
Right.
but with all of these that have numbers, Dennis, you found out who they all are?
From other photographs,
Must
and
have.
I kind of extrapolated information. This is my the Smith side of the family. This is Oliver Smith, and this actually was James Shaw and his wife. This was his 50th anniversary or something like that, if I
Goodness.
remember correctly.
My goodness.
He could speak Scots Gaelic, and he taught my two great aunts, Edith and Charlotte, several songs. I wanted to record them,
Yeah, yeah.
and they wouldn't let me do it.
Oh, wow.
They're probably bawdy songs,
Oh, really?
probably bar music.
Right.
But most of them wouldn't understand the words anyway, probably.
Well,
right?
I had a friend at IU,
See,
Roger Cunningham, he could have translated it.
so here's Johns Hall Malcolmson. Here's Emily Thiebaud. Okay, they were related to the Shaws. Okay, this is Oliver Smith, my second great grandfather, and this is Elizabeth Shaw Smith.
So, just to play devil's advocate, why does any of this matter?
It was history. It
Yeah.
was, it's something that should be preserved.
Right.
And, and I wanted to know, who are these people? What do they look like? What kind of jobs did they do? And all this information,
Because that tells you a little bit about who you are?
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
Right.
So, that's just the way it was.
That picture is extraordinary.
Yes, it is.
Conservators Holiday, we do a volunteer week. I think this will be our 13th one. And so we have a project, and so one year it was to tuck point this, and so Herschel had one of his people teach us how to do the lime mortar mix, and we've had window workshops and just a variety of things to try and teach the skill.
Right, and get some work
Yeah.
done at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And our colors, you might think, well, it's kind of red, isn't it? It's kind of green, isn't it? We had, when we were restoring the house, we hired Matthew Mosca, and he's a historic paint specialist. Like he's done, the Hermitage and Monticello and places like that. And so I had contacted him, and we didn't know if we could afford, and so we were going to have to do our own samples, and so I took pictures and sent it to him, and he was going to mark the pictures of where we would make this little tic-tac-toe mark and then gouge out a chip, and then what you get back is a photograph this tall showing you all the layers of paint, and he does chemical analysis so he can tell you what the original colors were.
Wow.
And so when I sent him the pictures, and he just said, I just have a good feeling I would really like to come and do it myself. So we were
my.
really thrilled, and he spent 2 days here.
Wow.
And we could learn so much because Herschel was working on the project then. And Herschel had said things like, he said, well, he had showed me this plaster. And he says, this isn't horsehair plaster, it just doesn't look right, And so he showed it to Mr. Mosca, and right away he said, oh, that's hog's hair. That's, it's kind of wiry red.
Wow.
And their agricultural census is, they raised a lot of hogs. We have the large smokehouse. And so it made sense that when they plastered their walls, that's what they used. So just knowledge just like that you'll find that in a book.
Right.
So he spec'd all the colors that we have in the house, which is a very simple, elegant. This is one of the pieces we're very excited about having, because all of the furnishings we're doing are just to represent the time period of the house.
Sure.
Well, in the museum, we don't know the provenance on a lot of things. And so we're constantly looking at old newspapers and reading articles about the club meetings. And we found an article where it said Mary Thiebaud's spinning wheel had been donated to the Historical Society. Well, down at the museum, up in the top part, in open storage, was this spinning wheel. And by golly, we found a piece of tape, and it had her name on it.
Oh my.
And then Jerry Wallen, the one who did the lighting and the table, he had to do some work on this. There was a piece of metal to hold the hoop together, and so he spliced on a piece of wood, you can see it there, and got everything back in balance. And we since have also come up with a photograph of Mary
Oh my goodness.
at the spinning wheel, so we can guarantee it is that spinning wheel. So it just worked out so beautifully, and he had to replace one of these also. So we're just fortunate to have some very talented people in the area that have a soft spot for us, because this is donated work. Of course, we hired him for the other things, but he's always very generous on that too. But he did all that work. And we have 2 people who both know how to spin. And so when we do our May 11th There will be somebody spinning, and we've got an old sewing machine that was in the museum that was period appropriate to the house, and so it's been restored, and Sandra sews on that. So, and all of our furnishings have been donated by members. This is one of my favorite pieces. This wasn't a member. This is a butler desk. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and so this we got from the Ohio History Center in Columbus, Ohio, and their director of interpretive services had done some workshops for us and such. Well, one of the things I found in our collection that he needed information on was about women's groups, and we had programs from, this group is still in existence from the 1870s to now, and so gave him those programs because I had extras. Well, they were changing the time period of their village, and so he said, could you use this? Yes.
Wow.
And then, again, one of our members, he did a restoration on it, and he didn't strip it or anything, but the desk wasn't moving right. Well,
Okay.
somebody had redone it, and they used too soft of a wood, and it just crushed it down. But got things working. He also found where there is a, what was it? Yeah, secret compartment here.
Look at that.
I don't even know if the people that gave it to us knew that existed.
right.
Yeah, but it's just such a beautiful piece.
Sure is.
So we're, usually these are up here, but
Butler's desk?
butler's desk, yes.
And that's the key for it?
No, that is our front door key.
Wow, okay.
And Jerry Wallen made us this too. Okay, this was another discovery. This plate here on the door. We were having the door faux grained. That was something else we had to have done. And I get a phone message from Herschel. And the message said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him and he with me." And he said, if you want to know what I'm talking about, you might want to come out to the farm. So when they had taken this off, there was a little Bible page right under there. It's Revelations. And so we put a copy back in there, and the original is now in our museum. And I didn't even know the scripture, and we have different volunteer groups help. Well, the Baptist Church youth group had come out to help us get ready for an event, and that means washing windows.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.